Welcome to the Sovereignty Sage, where your sage, Melania Johnson, enjoys herself as she runs her mouth about all things woman. My mom always said, women are the most powerful beings on the planet. They just don't know it. Well, I'm here to help you to know it. Put on your big girl panties because we're going deep. I'll talk about it all. Now let's go claim your sovereignty, shall we? Hello, and welcome to the Sovereignty Sage podcast. I'm your coach and sage, Melania Johnson. And I thank you for joining me this morning. It's a beautiful fall day here in Buffalo, New York. The sun is shining. I'm feeling good. And I'm thanking you for joining me as I run my mouth about all things women. This podcast covers a lot of topics ranging from uh, relationships with ourselves, relationships with others, leadership, community, politics, the world, and how we show up in it. And I started this podcast because it's really been something that's been in my heart for a long time. And I have to say that I'm very excited to be here with you this morning, but also nervous because my saboteurs are talking to me and they're saying to me, what do you have to say that people want to listen to? Why do you think that, there's a million voices out there? Who's going to find you, right? The saboteurs. We're going to talk about those today. But I started this podcast because of something my mom used to say to me all the time growing up. Melania, women are the strongest beings on the planet. They just don't know it. Well, I'm here to help you to know it. So let's get started. First, I want to talk a little bit about my mom, my first coach, so to speak. She was a really powerful woman. She was a very smart woman. And with all of those attributes, she still, in some ways, didn't recognize her own power, right? And I think we all do that. You can have a great title, you can have the respect of many people and garner attention, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you understand and release your power. My mom put up with some things as this smart, intelligent, beautiful, powerful woman that she should not have, right? She had a husband that cheated on her. She uh, dealt with violence from him, physical as well as verbal. She herself partook in verbal violence. And that situation created chaos within our homes. Now, whether you saw it from the outside, that was the reality inside. There was chaos. You never knew when the other shoe was going to drop. And see, the problem with us being sovereign and powerful in our lives is that sometimes those early beginnings imprint themselves in our minds and in our souls and in our bodies, and the lessons that we learn from those experiences can follow us all through our lives, and we can spend an entire lifetime trying to heal those broken places within ourselves. And so for me, it manifested in eating disorders. I'm on a journey, y'all. I've lost 21 pounds and I'm heading towards my goal. I'm doing some different kinds of self-care that I've never been able to do before. That chaos uh, showed itself in me in my relationship to alcohol. Me and alcohol don't mix. It's not a good combination, but it's taken me some time to understand and break that bond. So when I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to you from my experience. There's a saying that you can either be a great example or a horrible warning. And I'm going to be both. There's going to be some things where I'm going to be a great example, and there's going to be other things that I'm going to look at you and say, here's the warning. I'm telling you, don't go down this path. But we all have very different beginnings, right? Some of us came from very functional homes, right? But and some of us didn't. And just to set the record straight, this channel is for women. Whether you're a heterosexual woman, a bisexual woman, a gay woman, a trans woman, it's for women. It's for those people who are identifying as women and are marginalized in our society. You know, you might want to label me a feminist. I don't label myself a feminist, but I don't not label myself a feminist. I think over the years that term has turned sour. But I think since the beginning of time, there have been women who have been fighting for their rights to exist and have sovereignty in this world. I think we need to understand that the patriarchal society has not ever served women. We have never been seen as full in equal people, deserving of equal rights, deserving of equal pay, deserving of equal protection. So what I'm talking about in this podcast is how to tap in and claim our own sovereignty in our personal lives, but also as a collective of women to look out beyond the things that we're trying to achieve and look at the collective condition of women throughout this globe. I can tell you it's not great. And we have work to do because we are the most powerful being on the planet. And we don't know it. And we suffer because we don't know it. We grapple with our confidence, right? We grapple with having dysfunctional relationships with ourselves and with others. We grapple with feelings of unworthiness, feelings that we might not think we deserve to be happy. We might not know how to be happy, and we might not think we deserve to be happy. Because of the environment that I grew up in, never knowing what was going to happen next, you could be having a great time, and then the mood shifts. Somebody says something wrong. My father comes home, and now we're in the midst of tension, right? So as a result, I think I thought that I never could be happy. And there have been times because I'm doing the work, I'm doing the self-care, I'm doing the therapy. I encourage you all, if you need therapy and you have insurance, use it. If you don't, try to find some free resources, but get the support that you need. As this journey that I've been going through in my entire life, for the first time, I'm starting to feel happy. And then the part of me that's inside is like, is this really happiness? Can you trust this? Yes, you can trust it. We oftentimes as a society, we look at the material trappings and that defines who we are and that defines our happiness, but it's not. What really generates the joy within our heart is understanding our purpose and living it. As women, we're very powerful. When you stop to think about our power, we have the power to reproduce humans, right? And for our sisters out there who don't have children, I don't have children, or our sisters out there who cannot have children, you are not any less of a human being and you're not any less powerful. But what I'm talking about is the collective of women to produce children, to populate the world. That's power. And some might say, well, it takes a man in some form or fashion to make a baby. But let's be real. There's never been a shortage of sperm, right? not in the history of mankind. I doubt if there ever will be, right? So that is a very powerful uh, uh, responsibility that we have. And as women who bring forth life into this world, into this community called Earth, Mother Earth, we have a responsibility to create environments that thrive. We cannot bring children into this world that is polluted air, polluted water, polluted soil. We can't do that. When you have the power that we have, you make the decision as the head of the household. Oh, I know. I'm not asking women to be men or take on the patriarchal archetype of what the head of the household is, but women start families. They decide who their mates are going to be. They decide the conditions under which they want to have and sire children. They decide the world and the environment in which we bring forth life. So when you have that kind of power, you deserve sovereignty. And we've never had that. The patriarchal society has never benefited women. And I'm not man bashing. I love men. I think they're a beautiful entity on the planet. I think they have purpose. And I think part of their purpose has been diminished because women have not been in their purpose. In many ways, we make this planet stronger because we understand community. So when I'm talking about the ability to have sovereignty, I'm not talking about ruling the way men have ruled, because we can take a look at the way men have ruled, right? You can see what their values have been, and if you see news headlines and see the images that are proliferating our social media and our worlds today, what you will see is war. You will see carnage. You will see flexing. You will see subjugation. When women are sovereign, we see community. We see cooperation. We see the nurturing of life. So when we have stepped back from our sovereignty, what we have helped to do is create a planet devoid of the powers that really make life thrive. So I'm here today, and this podcast is here to help you build your personal power, right? Because you need to have your personal power and sovereignty in your own life. But let's also turn the lens to our globe, our sisters around the world who are not faring as well as some of us in the United States. And we're fighting for our rights here in the United States. Never did I think in my lifetime that we would be fighting for women to have autonomy over their body. But yet here we are. And understand this, as an African American, I understand that when people bear down and try to strip away your power, that shows how fearful they are of your power and how powerful you are. You, woman, us women are powerful. I want to claim it. I want to talk to you about something that has been a fight of mine, conquering the saboteurs, right, that derail us, make us have detours in terms of where we want to go and what we want to do and how we want to show up in the world, right? And A couple of years ago, maybe a year, more than a year or so ago, I was invited to participate in a coaching program called the PQ Intelligence or Positive Quotient Intelligence. It's all about mental fitness. And let me share a little bit about me. You know, for most of my life, I have suffered from anxiety and depression. My mom used to say, Melania, when I was a little kid, Melania, you're such a worry wart. Now, as an adult, I realized I wasn't a worry wart. I was anxious, right? When, back when I was growing up, the mental fitness, mental health was not a thing. That's not something that was discussed. And in the African American community, that really wasn't something that was discussed. And maybe that's why I went to school and got my first degree in psychology, because I've always been interested in the mind and behavior and how we can become our best selves. Right. But I've always had anxiety. When you grow up in chaotic environments, it produces anxiety. Your body is built for it. There's a book out there called The Body Keeps the Score. And it talks about how trauma embeds itself in our bodies. So when we think about healing, it's not only just about healing our minds, but it's about clearing out some of the trauma. And some of the trauma, your trauma might not look like mine, and everybody doesn't have trauma. I don't see how people can't have trauma living in the world today, but yours might not look like mine. The things that challenge you might not look like some of the examples, but yet and still we're here together, right? And dealing with our mental fitness. I push back on what self-care looks like now. It's not getting your nails done. Do that if that makes you feel good. Do it, right? It's not something superficial. It's really taking care of those places in us that need healing, that need the light shined on it, that need your empathy and your compassion and your embrace, so that you can show up and be your authentic self. See, we live in a society that tells us being our authentic self is not what you want. Women are always told what they're not. $1 billion industries just dedicated to our looks, because we're never enough. And we've become so distorted in our image of ourselves and what is beauty and what is acceptable and what we're not, that we're now injecting ourselves with all kinds of foreign bodies. We're injecting our faces and distorting our faces until we look monstrous. And some of us start out really beautiful, and then by the time they finish with all the surgeries and the injections, they're monstrous. And then the psyche of women being trapped in trying to live up to these ideals is starting earlier and earlier and earlier with our daughters. See, that's a distraction. I'm not saying don't look cute, because we all want to look cute, right? But I'm saying that's not your whole purpose. See, when you're distracted about, how much I weigh, is there a gap between my thighs? Am I wearing a designer this? Is my closet a walk-in? Do I have a wall of shoes? When I'm focused on those things, I'm not paying attention to the fact that there's laws out there that don't protect our rights. I did a little research, right? And when you start to look at how much time sex offenders serve in jail, right? For rape, approximately, 10 to 16 years, maybe, depending on whether it's mandatory or not, sexual abuse, child pornography, right? The question is, why is it allowed for men, typically, who are the majority of predators in this scenario? How is it acceptable for them to serve a sentence and get out and potentially be predators again. I'm saying that women need to come to the forefront in terms of our legal system and create laws that actually protect us. We need to have laws that are enforced that end the pay equity gap. We need to be a part of the government that makes policies that protect our earth and our environment. I believe there's about 17 to 20 women who are heads of states of countries. In the United Nations, there's 129 states, countries represented. I think 17 to 20 of them are headed by women. That's not enough representation on the world stage. Imagine a world where there are women who are kind, human, smart, brilliant, innovative, in charge. What kind of world would that look like? We have a responsibility of those who bring forth life into this planet to create a planet that is unimaginably beautiful. Let's picture that for a change. Not the dystopia, but the beautiful world where people are educated, where people are healthy, where people are thriving, where people have compassion. Where's that world? We're not creating that world, and we should be. So I want to talk about some of the things on a personal level that, stop us from being our true selves. We have saboteurs, right? And these saboteurs impact the way that we see the world. Under the positive intelligence program, they identified these saboteurs. And I want you to take a good look to see if this is actually something that resonates with you. Everybody has the judge, right? The judge is brutal. And when you start paying attention to how much your judge is really bullying you and really tearing down other people, you realize the impact and the negativity that's associated with it. Then we have those people who are the avoiders. They avoid, anything that's uncomfortable, conflict, putting themselves out into the world. You name it, they avoid it. You have the hyperachiever. That was one of my saboteurs. And it showed up in a way that, yes, I like to achieve things, but it also showed up in a way that I'm envious of others who are achieving because I'm constantly comparing myself to them. Then we have the pleaser. You know who you are. And the victim. That was another one of my saboteurs. Woe is me. Restless, hypervigilant. That was my other saboteur. I was high on the scale for achiever and hypervigilant. They tied in second place, and victim was number one, right? Hypervigilant is you always are fearful that the shoe's gonna drop. Then there's the hyper rational, right? No heart, just all logic. Controller. How many of us are the controller, the stickler, the perfectionist? So these are some of the judges that help confound us. They create barriers to our happiness. They create barriers to our ability to be resilient. They bring us down. And they play a big role in our lives. The problem is we don't know how to manage and diminish them, right? As the victim, a victim feels like they have no power. So when you feel that you have no power, you don't move. You don't move forward. You live the abuse. So as we go through this podcast, we're going to talk about some of these challenges that we have. and how to overcome them. Now, I'm going to take a moment right now to do a shameless plug. This podcast is sponsored by Be Smart Coaching. Be Smart Coaching is a leadership development practice which offers assessments and personality and behavior, individual and team coaching, as well as change management strategy for organizations. The model for Be Smart Coaching is in life, you can either work hard or you can work smart. I suggest you work smart. By the way, this is a shameless plug. I am the owner of Be Smart Coaching, and as such, I'm offering a program, a 6-week positive intelligence program that will kick off January 12th, 2025. Um, I will leave in the link a link to a video that will help explain the program and its offerings and its benefits. If you're interested, register by December 25th, 2024. Again, that's my shameless plug. But we're going to talk further in other episodes about the things that are tripping us up, that keep us from being, our best version of ourselves. I've spent a whole lot of time with myself. I'm not married. I've never had children, right? And so I've had a lot of time to do some very personal work with myself. And still at the age of 61, I still find that there's a depth of exploration and healing and power that I have not unleashed yet, that I've not freed myself from the barriers that stop me from authentically being who I am. So, this journey that we're going on together is a part of my gifting to help women to be stronger and powerful and to help them in turn change this planet. I'm going to change. I'm going to move a little bit to a global a viewpoint. As consumers, right? Women need to understand that we have spending power. I think it was 300 and some odd $1 trillion women spend. 70-80% of women make the purchases for their household. That's power. We can decide in many ways through economics what goes down in our countries. Have we leveraged that power? We have not. With all the things that have been happening in our world and in our country, I keep looking around to see, where are women? Why are we not at the forefront of a change movement that gives us sovereignty? We need to be cognizant of what is happening to women around the world. And I'm going to give you a couple examples because we're going to wrap up. But, many of us love our makeup and the shimmer and the glimmer and our nail polish and our makeup. Understand the glimmer and shimmer comes from a material, a mineral called pica. The biggest reserves of pica are in India. Pica is mined. Pica is mined by in many cases, children who, when asked if what was their dream was to go to school. They don't go to school. They work in these mines, which are underground. There's no OSHA to protect them, so they can get hurt. They can be killed. Many of us love our weaves, right? Many of the weaves the hair that is procured comes from poor women in different parts of the world. And when you try to follow the steps to where that hair goes to get to you, right? It's murky. But what we do know is these women who give their hair get a small pittance of payment compared to what you end up paying. So our buying habits have impact on women across the globe. And understand this: if there are poor women in this country, there are poor children. That means there are poor communities. And we cannot have a thriving world when there is poverty. We cannot. So we are our sister's keeper. Well, I have run my mouth quite a bit today, and I'm going to stop. Um, and I'm hoping that, you know, a little bit of what we talked about today um, has helped you to think about your power and your sovereignty on this planet. Um, it is important that we understand our power and we utilize our power. I'm going to help you to understand your saboteurs and the work we have to do together. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with a quote. The connections between and among women are the most feared and the most problematic and the most potentially transforming force on the planet. Adrienne Rich, American poet. I think I've run my mouth enough. Thank you for joining me. Come back every Saturday at 9 a.m. You can find Sovereignty Sage on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Just in case you haven't heard this in a while, you are powerful. Now go rule your world and claim your sovereignty. See you next week. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you tapped into your powers. If you did, like, subscribe, and share. I'm here every Saturday at 9 a.m. for your empowerment. Now go rule your world and claim your sovereignty.